You need to tie your hair up. So, during the 1970s, my dad worked for the Royal Mail, British Postal Service, as a postman. Like many men at the time, he had long hair, just below his shoulders. His managers had an issue with this, and told him he needed to sort his hair out and tie it up if he wasn't going to cut it. Now, my dad is an arsehole, and it came in handy here. He went home that day and told my mom, and she agreed to get up early to tie his hair for him before work. The next day, he went into work with the most delightful pigtails, tied up with some lovely pink ribbons. My dad greeted his manager and said he'd tied his hair up, as requested, and then went off to do his rounds. He wore his pigtails for a week until coming back with his hair down after a weekend off, and never got shit for it again. When I was at school, the rule was that boys' hair could not touch their collar. So one lad who was told off about his massive jufro had the back and sides of his head shaved, leaving this absurd curly platform on top of his head. I overheard two teachers angrily discussing how ridiculous it looked, but it was within the rules, so nothing they could do about it. This was in 1994, and none of us could have predicted that in 30 years' time that would be an actual haircut that teenage boys got because they thought it was cool. You want the server down during business hours? You got it! I used to work IT at a mid-sized logistics company. Our warehouse ran 24/7, but the corporate office was open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was responsible for maintaining the internal server that handled everything from payroll to inventory management to shipping labels. One Monday morning, I got an email from a higher-up, let's call her Karen, demanding that we take the server offline immediately for scheduled maintenance. Now, I had scheduled that maintenance for Sunday evening, sent out 3 notices, and got no objections. But Karen hadn't read those emails and was now insisting we do it right now during her working hours. I replied, taking the server offline during business hours will temporarily hold access to the shipping system, inventory, time tracking, and payroll processing. Confirm you'd like me to proceed? She replied, and I quote, yes, you should be working on my schedule. Get it done now. All right, malicious compliance time. I looped in the warehouse manager and let him know the system would be down per Karen's urgent request. Then, I pulled the plug at exactly 10:30 a.m. Within 15 minutes, the office was in chaos. No one could clock in or out, print labels, track shipments, or even check inventory levels. Phones were ringing off the hook. The CFO stormed into my office asking what the hell was going on. I just showed him the email thread. Less than 30 minutes later, Karen came to my office red-faced and yelling. I calmly pointed out that she had approved the server downtime in writing despite warnings. I offered to restore access early, but reminded her it would take time to reboot and check for errors from the forced shutdown. Fallout? Oh yes. She got dragged into a meeting with the COO and CTO that afternoon. From what I heard, it didn't go well for her. After that, all urgent IT requests from management had to go through a change management process with multiple approvals. I also got a little bonus on my next paycheck for handling the outage with professionalism. Sometimes, the best way to teach someone why we have procedures is to let them break one. Once. A 10-minute favor versus a €1,000 bill. Once, at a company where I worked as an architect, I used the company laptop's Photoshop to make my daughter's birthday invitation. It took maybe 10 minutes. My boss saw it in the recent files while we were reviewing a project together and told me the computer was for work only. I just said okay because, well, what else was I gonna say? That same week, I traveled to another city to survey a building. I did everything with the tape measure and laser the company provided. When I got back, he asked if I had already downloaded the photos because he wanted to see the inside of the building. I told him I hadn't taken any photos since my phone was personal. He was furious on the inside, but couldn't show it because months earlier I had asked the company for a work phone and they had refused. The next day, a brand new Samsung appeared on my desk, and off I went again to the same city to take the photos, with the company paying for flights, hotel, and all the doubled expenses. Employers, care for what you ask for. I'm an emergency physician. I work in emergency departments and hospitals. An interesting specialty in medicine. Different patients every day, except for the frequent flyers, but that's another story. Now, especially in the wintertime, EDs are full of people, with usually long wait times, and we take people in order of severity, not first come, first served. So, I'm at work, and get a new patient. The chart says needs a work note. I go into the cubicle and see a patient that is obviously ill. After 40 years of experience, I can size patients up pretty well from across the room. This woman was ill. Vitals were not good. Fever of 102 Fahrenheit. The monitor shows her heart is okay. Pulse is a little high. BP is a little low. High fever. Talking to her, she tells me she's got a cold. Now, I tend to appreciate it when patients just tell me the truth. She didn't claim to have COVID, pneumonia, anthrax. Don't ask, or anything but a cold. Which, being a virus, there's not a hell of a lot I can do for her. So I ask why she came in. Turns out she's been ill for 2 days. Her fever is actually down with her taking Tylenol and drinking fluids. No kidding. And her employer wants a doctor's note for more paid time off. This woman waited in the emergency department waiting room for 5.5 hours to get a goddamn note for work? Not her fault though. It's her employer's. So I ask her how much time they will give her paid off. There's no limit, she said. I just need a doctor saying I need it. Got it. So she went home with a lovely note giving her 2 weeks off with pay and instructions to return for additional time if she needs it to recover. I really hate employers that demand asinine notes like this. Fight the stupidity. I'm a physician in Brazil. Due to our labor laws, there's no absence for work without pay cut if you don't present a doctor's note. Some employers even demand ICD coding, which is unethical and abusive. I get a perverse pleasure when I can justify giving a longer leave to honest patients, together with a copy of the jurisprudence and how to talk firmly to the HR representative that they got no right to demand to know what the patient is on medical leave for. Sure, I'll keep my mouth shut. This happened years ago, but it still makes me grin, Grinch style. I was working on a really big project at the time. The VP was aware that I was the main resource on the project, so he included me in the status meetings. My manager did not like that. She didn't want anyone else getting any kind of recognition for the project, so I was instructed to sit there and keep my mouth shut. The next status meeting came around and I did just what she told me to do. I sat there, taking notes and saying nothing, right up until the VP started asking questions about project details, which she couldn't answer because she was the only person attached to the project who did not actually work on the project. She was furious, but what could she do? After that disaster, I was allowed to attend and participate. I was put on a project to provide field-related assistance. The guy in charge was not happy and sent an email to keep my opinions to myself. I had not even said anything yet. A few weeks later, I noticed that his draft had some flaws. I said nothing, and it ended up costing $15K to rectify. The department head who put me on the project asked if I saw it, to which I confirmed. I showed him the guy's email, and the head ripped the guy a new one. It would have been hilarious if you sent an email to yourself pointing out the flaw, so you can prove you raised the issue as instructed. I used to do this and then place the emails in a folder named, "Hate to say, I told you so." Had a few occasions where a manager would stand behind me with other people demanding I show proof, and then me opening this folder and saying, "Ah yes, here you go." Priceless. You can't give me $5? Nothing super special, but gave me a laugh today. My son's school for the 100th day of school asked for the kids to bring in 100 of the same coin. They are going to be donating the money to the local food pantry, so it is for a good cause, and we are doing pretty good this month, so I decided to give him 100 quarters, $25, to donate. So on lunch, I head to my bank and go in. I'm directed to one of the windows and tell the nice lady I need to withdraw $25 in quarters. She says okay and goes to get my quarters. She comes back with 3 rolls of quarters. I can only do $20 or $30. They only come in rolls of $10. I point out that she has a tray of change and ask, "Can you take $5 from the loose change?" No, they only come in rolls of $10. Do you want $20 or $30? Okay, I really need the $25, so I ask for the $30. She goes to process my request in the computer at another window and comes back with the 3 rolls of quarters. I then tell her, can I go ahead and make a deposit? Of course. How much were you wanting to deposit? $5 in quarters. The range of emotions that crossed her face as I broke open one of the rolls and began to count out my $5 in quarters was priceless. She then takes it and tells the guy at the other computer that we needed to deposit $5 in quarters back into the account. He asked her what happened, and she told him, I asked for $25, but rolls only came in $10. He then asked her why she didn't just count out $5 in quarters from the loose change that is on each desk. I just smiled as I waited for my deposit receipt. I went into the bank to deposit a few $100 bills, but needed a $10 back. Banker tells me he can't give cash back on deposits. I look him dead in his face and said, "Can't you make change?" Light bulb finally turns on. "Oh yeah, we can do that." I should cancel on my end? No problem. I booked accommodation 2 months in advance for St. Patrick's weekend in Dublin. It was a fairly ancient B&B, but for €115 it was a place to sleep, and cheapest option for the busiest weekend of the year in Dublin. It was one double bed for me and a buddy to share. It was pay on arrival. 3 weeks before the stay, the accommodation manager messaged me on the app I booked the stay on, telling me there's a problem. I can no longer stay and to cancel on my side immediately. No apology, let alone help offered by them. This was followed by multiple phone calls daily, along with text messages in a harassing nature, saying I need to cancel now so I can get my money back. Once again, it was pay on arrival. I didn't answer the calls or messages telling me to cancel. Something felt off, so I checked the listing for the night I was supposed to stay, and it just so happens the accommodation had been listed again for double the price. Likely, the manager realized St. Patrick's weekend was a cash grab. Maybe not immediately, but at the property manager's request, I simply rang booking.com and told them I'd like to cancel my booking. The customer service rep asked why I was canceling. I explained in detail all the above to her, and things took an unexpected turn for the property manager. Ultimately, the rep agreed the property was acting in an unfair manner, and the solution was that booking.com would find me accommodation within 1 kilometer. Originally, they tried to get me to stay way outside of the city, but I wasn't having it, of where I intended to stay. The original property would then be liable to cover any difference in cost. The good part, finding accommodation 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day in Dublin, is about as difficult as trying to light a fire with flint and steel in the rain, near impossible. Everything within a 1 kilometer range was booked out except for a well-known 4-star hotel. The room alone cost €350 per night and had 2 double beds, much bigger room and in a nicer location. The customer rep had to get it cleared by her team lead, so I just sat on hold doing chores for 25 minutes. Eventually they came back and said it was all signed off on and they'll send me a special link. What a treat. I gladly accepted their compromise. This in turn meant the property owner that tried to force me to cancel on my end was now indebted €235, and we got a massive upgrade for the same price we originally had. I had to pay the €350 up front and had to keep receipts and show proof of payment to the booking partner after our stay, but got my refund of €235 the following week. TLDR, property demanded I cancel my booking on my end. They ended up having to pay an extra €235 and I got a free upgrade. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to press like button and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. If you want to suggest interesting Reddit posts, drop them down in the comments. Till next time, peace.